If you were to right now, and you can try this, open up Google and do a search for the toughest man alive or the toughest person on the planet, or any version of that statement, there's one name that will come up on top probably every time. And that name is David Goggins. So what does that mean? Is he an inspiration? Or is he way too extreme? Or is he some combination of both? In this video, I give my honest review of his book, Can't Hurt Me. There we go. Master your mind and defy the odds. So stick around and hear what I have to say. Hi, I'm Leslie, and I'm a life coach based here in Brisbane, Australia. I also host a monthly book club called the Vanguard Book Club for Personal Development. When I first nominated this book for the book club, I was actually really reluctant for various reasons, which I will get into. But after our meetup, I was really glad that we had an opportunity to discuss this book together, because there were things that the group really liked about the book. There were things that I really liked about the book, but there were also some problems relating to this book that we could not ignore, and I definitely couldn't. This video focuses on my feelings about the book, but I want to start by talking about things that I liked about this book, and then I'll talk about some of the things that I really did not like about the book. And some of those things are pretty serious, so make sure to stick around for that. Alright, so I'm gonna read the description of the book on the back of the book jacket, because I know that that's something a lot of people base their book purchases on. Anyway, here we go. For David Goggins, childhood was a nightmare. Poverty, prejudice, and physical abuse colored his days and haunted his nights. But through self-discipline, mental toughness, and hard work, Goggins transformed himself from a depressed, overweight young man with no future into a U.S. Armed Forces icon and one of the world's top endurance athletes. The only man in history to complete elite training as a Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller, he went on to set records in numerous endurance events, inspiring Outside Magazine to name him the fittest real man in America. In Can't Hurt Me, he shares his astonishing life story and reveals that most of us tap into only 40% of our capabilities. Goggins calls this the 40% rule. And his story illuminates a path that anyone can follow to push past pain, demolish fear, and reach their full potential. David Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL and has competed in more than 60 ultramarathons, triathlons, and ultra-triathlons, setting new course records and regularly placing in the top 5. A former Guinness World Record holder for completing 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours, he's a much sought-after public speaker who's shared his story with the staffs of Fortune 500 companies, professional sports teams, and hundreds of thousands of students across the country. All right, that was a mouthful. So it's clear this guy has done a lot in his life. And one thing I really like about his story is that he walks the talk. There's something theoretical about his perspective on mastering your mind and overcoming obstacles. And like, he's done it in a way that truly defies the odds. I like that his achievements are verifiable. He's not just like blowing smoke up himself and saying, oh look, I did all these great things at the end, and just expecting us to believe him. In some personal development writing, a lot of these guru type people, I feel, lean a little too heavily on personal anecdotes that may or may not have a basis in reality. I'm not saying they all do this all the time. I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of fake it till you make it culture in the personal development world. And although this book is an autobiography, it has become very influential in the personal development community. And it is very useful in that sense. He gives specific examples of how he used self-talk to overcome his own bullshit excuses, and the tangible methods that he used to pull himself out of dark places mentally so that he could do things that didn't seem humanly possible. And there's a lot to be said for that. I also really appreciated that he spoke from a very relatable perspective in some areas when it came to the topic of race, when it came to the topic of being the only one of your kind in the room, and told us over and over that unless you have been there, you don't know what it is like. Page 58 and 59 talk a little bit about this. He talks about one part of his youth when he was particularly subject to a lot of racial prejudice. So something happened in which his life had literally been threatened, and he couldn't get this other person to understand the severity of this situation. So in 58, he writes, "I had no idea who my enemy was. Was it one of the rednecks from history class, or was it somebody I thought I was cool with, but who really didn't like me at all? It was one thing staring down the barrel of a gun on the street, or dealing with some racist parent. At least that shit was honest. Wondering who else felt that way in my school was a different kind of unnerving, and I couldn't shake it off. Even though I had plenty of friends, all of them white, I couldn't stop seeing the hidden racism scrawled all over the walls in invisible ink, which made it extremely hard to carry the weight of being the only, most if not all, minorities, women, and gay people in America know that strain of loneliness well." And that notion comes up in a few different ways in this book. The way he had to prove himself in these contexts where nobody really expected much from him at all. This is something that's very relatable to me as a Black person and a lot of other people I know, and in all the categories in which people are marginalized. On a slightly different topic, another thing that I liked about this book was that at the end of each chapter, he issued a challenge. And these challenges were quite specific. And part of the challenges involved an outreach into the real world. So you do the thing, you get on social media, you use these hashtags to show that you've actually completed this task. That's a very interesting way of getting people to engage with a topic when they become part of the story. Because a lot of times people will read books and they may be paying attention, they may not. They'll get to the end of it and go, "Oh, what have I learned from this? Who knows?" Especially in the personal development genre, where people pick up a book expecting that it's going to change their lives. Like, no one book is going to do that. But the more you become well-versed in the genre, you understand like which bits resonate, how to put those things together. If you've got people to talk about this content with, then you can learn what is worth incorporating into your life and what is not, and most importantly, how. So by issuing these challenges at the end of each chapter, it's like saying, hey, I hope you've been paying attention because now you've got homework. And that helps create a good consolidation for the reader of what has actually been read. So this next excerpt from the book really links together the things that I really like about this book with some of the things that I find quite problematic. And that is in chapter 7, titled The Most Powerful Weapon. So what is the most powerful weapon? It's our minds. Yeah. Right, okay. On page 219, he writes, "We know life can be hard, and yet we feel sorry for ourselves when it isn't fair. From this point forward, accept the following as Goggins's laws of nature. You will be made fun of. You will feel insecure. You may not be the best all the time. You may be the only Black, white, Asian, Latino, female, male, gay, lesbian, fill in your identity here, in a given situation. There will be times when you feel alone. Get over it." Statements like that, it's like, well, yeah, okay. Like, I can get on board with that to a degree. right? And this is really the main flaw for me about this book. As much as Goggins identifies things like racial prejudice as having been part of the challenge that he overcome, there's a section in the book, quite early in the book, that serves to undermine that message somewhat, and more importantly, has wider ramifications for society. And that is on, where is it? Page 69. But if you are the only, and you aren't stuck in some real-world genocidal twilight zone, you'd better get real too. Your life is not fucked up because of overt racists or hidden systemic racism. You aren't missing out on opportunities, making shit money, and getting evicted because of America or Donald fucking Trump, or because your ancestors were slaves, or because some people hate immigrants, or Jews, or harass women, or believe gay people are going to hell. If any of that shit is stopping you from excelling in life, I've got some news. You are stopping you. No. See, the problem is that a statement like that, there is a lot of nuance missing from the statement. Context needs to be taken into consideration, how it fits with the rest of the story. But the way that that statement is made, and so early on in the book, provides fodder for the people who deny the existence of systemic racism, and for people who deny the impact that generational trauma has on people's abilities to move forward in life. And he's talking specifically about missing out on opportunities, making shit money, getting evicted. It's like, Jim Crow laws, redlining, the school-to-prison pipeline, the for-profit prison system, all of these things have their connection in slavery, in racism from the past, in things that we can't just go, I'm gonna shift my mindset and I'm gonna pretend those things didn't happen to me. Yes, we do have choices that we can make, but they don't always come from equal footing. But those things can have a deep traumatic impact through generations that will make it harder for someone to succeed in a particular area than it will for someone else. And sure, the rest of the book kind of goes on to explain in detail how he overcame a lot of hardships and things that people can draw on to help themselves overcome hardships. But this is making a pretty broad blanket statement about what's possible for everyone else if they just ignore the fact that, Donald Trump and racism and these things did cause massive problems of inequality and inequity. It's a reality. And it's statements like that people who are very far right in their political ideologies, they love hearing shit like that. And when you see this very accomplished black man say things like, it's not because of this, it's not because of that, the problem is you, that's a very easy thing for white supremacists in particular to point at and go, see, this guy made it, why can't you? Why can't you just make better decisions? The problem isn't that you have this obstacle in front of you and that obstacle and blah, 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 blah. It's you. And he says it, and he's black. And he's black, so I'm not racist. I'm not racist. This is a black guy saying this. People love taking things like that, completely out of context, and using them to bolster their own agenda. The first endorsement on the back of this book is from none other than Joe Rogan. I'm not a fan, for various reasons. And it has not been great to see David Goggins, in all the controversies that Joe Rogan has been involved in, quite publicly, especially recently, to see this guy, very publicly defending him in a way that's see, I can barely finish a sentence, it just drives me so nutty. And I'm usually pretty good at finishing sentences. But even race aside, using language like, I had to hem my vagina, to describe toughening up to overcome a thing is like, dude, do you have to position people with vaginas as somehow being weak and inferior in order to bolster what it is you're trying to say? It's like, that's not necessary. It's not necessary. So, and it just sounds like bullying. There is a culture of endless striving in the personal development world that inspires some people, and it helps some people live much more fulfilling lives. But there are also a lot of serious problems associated with that like hustle culture. An interesting illustration of this problem is reading some other reviews about this book. You can look at Goodreads and you'll see what I'm talking about. A lot of people rated this book like, 5 stars. It's the best book ever. I love this book. Like, everyone needs to read it. It's so inspirational. And it's like, cool, that's what you got out of it? Great. But where there are critical reviews, even like 1-star, 2-star reviews, that focus in on the fact that, for a lot of these races, he was very unprepared, and that's not something to look up to, and they're looking at it from a much more, as much more of a cautionary tale, the responses to those reviews play into this bully culture that books like this, unfortunately, then get sucked into and used as a weapon in. Some of those comments on the negative reviews for the book will say things like, oh, you've missed the point of the book, or you're just weak, or you're some leftist softie, or you're a socialist, da-da-da-da-da. It's like... So it's not even about having different opinions about the book. It's the fact that, if you don't love this book 1,000%, there's something wrong with you. It's like, no, that's not how things work. When someone is pointing out the flaws in something that is very widely well received, and other people are saying, oh, no, you're just a softie, that's saying a lot. Taking personal responsibility for your own actions is important, and promoting that message can be very helpful, but it can also be taken to too far of an extreme when someone approaches someone's life story as a I did it, so can you sort of thing. And the onus is also on the reader to understand which parts to understand, that no book is going to be a follow in my footsteps because that's how you should be living sort of thing. And again, there are things that I do like about this book, and I'm not here to tell you whether you should or shouldn't read it. I'm simply offering my tip-of-the-iceberg perspective as someone who reads a lot of personal development books and runs a personal development book club, like an overall picture of how I was looking at the book. I could talk for hours about all the details, all the nuances, and all the nitty-gritty, but no one's going to watch me babble on for ages about it. It does raise some thought-provoking questions that I really enjoyed discussing with my group, and I want to know what you think about this book, what you liked, what you didn't like. Do you think I'm some sort of softy leftist? Let me know. You can leave me a comment, find me on my social media. If you want to scream at me in person about it, you can come to 91 Commercial Road, Teneriffe, and talk to me face to face. If you happen to be David Goggins. I would love to talk to David Goggins directly and just have a deeper conversation about the social impacts of so many of the things that appear in this book and how they're presented. So I'm going to leave this one there. I'm not going to give it a star rating because it's very fluid to me. I've got a bunch more reviews coming up. These are some. Apple to the Heart, I've had it, and everything that I've done so far with my book club. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that. And if there are any books that you want me to review specifically, reach out, let me know. Join my book club, and I'll talk to you another time. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it with someone else who can benefit from it. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notifications bell so you know exactly when I've uploaded a new video. You can also book a free life coaching session with me through my website, lesliebcoaching.com, and we can work together online or right here in my studio. Follow me on my socials to keep up with what I'm doing, and please get in touch with any questions, comments, or video ideas you may have. I'm Leslie V, and I'll see you in the next video.